Okay, in this video, let's take a look at the virtual terminal. So, the virtual terminal is where you go to take a new transaction. This is probably the first place that a new business will go to run a sale on the AGMS gateway. And here we are. You access the virtual terminal just by clicking on process payment or hovering over process payment and clicking on virtual terminal. Either place, wherever you click right here, will take you to the right spot. So now that we're on the virtual terminal, we have a few blocks of information, right? We have the transaction information, credit card information, and billing information. Yours might look a little different, especially when you first log into it, but it's all kind of the same, and we'll show you how to configure the gateway to make it your own here in just a second. But first, let's look at what we have on screen. We have the transaction information, which tells us the type, a sale, which is normally what you'll want to be running as a sale here, and then it asks for the dollar amount and it has a little red star next to the word amount. You'll also see those on card number and expiration date. Those denote required fields. So if you see a red star, that means you absolutely have to type in something in order to run a transaction. Okay, so I've got all of my billing information in, I've got a good credit card number in, an expiration date, and the dollar amount. We are ready to process this transaction. So to run the sale, we just hit this process transaction button down at the bottom, and there we go. A transaction successful message appears on screen. So if this card had been declined or some other error, you would see a big red bar right here and transaction failed for whatever reason. But since it went through, this is a good transaction. We get the good receipt here. And that's exactly what a customer would usually see on any other transaction receipt that they would get. Now you can print this off and have the customer sign it like normal. You can email it. In fact, when I put the billing email address, what will happen is the gateway will automatically send an email copy of this receipt to the customer after the transaction gets completed. Let's go back to our dashboard though for a second, and we can see this transaction that we just processed. This $20 is our most recent successful sale. I'm going to click this little magnifying glass icon here, and it's going to take us into the transaction details for this sale that we just run. So we have all the normal information that you would see on the receipt, right? So the truncated card number, the dollar amount, of course, the fact that it was a sale, and all of the billing information that we typed in as well. And we also have the source information. This is where this transaction originated from. So we have all of my computer's information here. The source was the virtual terminal, so you know that it was run via the virtual terminal and not some of these other modules that you can run transactions through within the AGMS gateway. You'll also see up here on the transaction details some buttons that we can choose. So we can print this receipt. If we just click the print button, it'll just show us a normal print preview like you would normally see from printing anything else. We can email this receipt again. So if you wanted to resend it to the customer, or if you wanted to send it to an accounting department, or whoever needed to get this transaction receipt, you can email it to them. You can start a new sale on this card right here from this button, New Sale, a new authorization, as well as void this transaction. So if you wanted to just completely erase it, you can do it right here from this transaction detail screen. Let's go back to our virtual terminal though. So I'm going to click Process Payment and Virtual Terminal. And let's take a look at this configuration. So right now we just have transaction information, credit card, and billing information. Let's say we wanted to add a little bit more to this. We can click this configuration button, and now we have a bunch of options to choose from. So shipping information, for example. If we wanted to turn on the shipping first name and last name, and let's do their address and city and state, and their zip code. So now we have these fields that are going to display. You'll also notice on the right-hand side of all these boxes, you can choose to require them. So you can make their billing first name and last name required, for example. I'm not going to turn on any requirements. I just want to display these fields for now. You see over here optional information, display fields, just with some other text boxes that we can turn on and off. And when we're done, we can hit Save Configuration and go back to our virtual terminal. And now we have our shipping information that we just turned on with the first name, last name, address, city, state, and zip code. Perfect. But let's say you wanted even more customization onto this virtual terminal. A really good example is we have a youth sports league as one of our clients, and they want to collect information about the actual player who's going to be playing in their youth sports league. So this is different, obviously, from the billing information, which is going to be in most cases the parent's information, the parent's first name and last name, and all of their information with the credit card. But if you wanted to collect information about the kid who's actually playing in the league, you can add that bit of information here on this virtual terminal if you wanted to as well. So let's go back to our configuration screen first, and let's get rid of all of our shipping information because we don't need any shipping information for our sports league. So we'll unselect all of those boxes, and we'll save the configuration and go back. Okay, great. So now we're back to transaction, credit cards, and billing information. Now let's add our custom fields. To do that, we're going to go to Settings and Custom Fields. And you see here we have 10, all of which are not used. So let's go ahead and start configuring these. The first thing that we can change is the header, right? So the header is just called custom fields. If I click this button though, I can change this to, how about player info, and hit save. So now our fields box is going to be called player info. We can edit the first one, and let's call it, here we go, position, and go back. And now we have our first custom field locked in as position. We can call this one player number. And we'll call the third one player name. All right, so now we have 3 custom fields under the header player information. We have a position, a player number, and their player's name. Let's go back to our virtual terminal and go back to configuration. And now we have these bits of information that we can turn on, just like the shipping information and the optional stuff that we looked at earlier. Now we have custom field player info. So I'm going to turn these on and make them required. And we can go back to our virtual terminal. Oops, actually we want to turn those on and save it. Save configuration. And now we can go back to our virtual terminal. And here we go. Player information, position, player number, and player name. So that means that anytime you take a transaction, you're going to collect the billing information, the credit card number, expiration date, the dollar amount, as well as the information about the player who's going to be playing in this league. One cool thing that you can do, if you go back here to the custom fields, is let's say this position. Right now you'll notice that it's just a text box, right? So it's just a place where you can type in information. Let's say you wanted to limit that to only the positions that are available on your team. So we can do that by going to Custom Fields and changing this from a text box to, how about a drop-down list? Perfect. So we'll save those changes. And now it gives us line items to add to our drop-down list. So let's say I can put in quarterback and RB for running back, and wide receiver, and offensive line, and tight end. We'll just pretend that those are our only options available for player position. So once I've saved those changes, I can go back to our virtual terminal, and now our position field is no longer a text box, but a drop-down list where I can select the player's position. And that's it. That's how you configure the virtual terminal. As we get further into the videos, we can show how we can apply those custom fields to other areas aside from the virtual terminal, but how the virtual terminal kind of controls everything that you're going to be doing within the gateway. So hopefully this video was helpful. Please stay tuned and watch the next tutorials on how to get familiarized with the HGMS Gateway. It is an awesome tool for your business, and as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a call here at the home office at HGMS. Thank you very much.